Hello, my name is Maya Rosen. I am a postdoc from the Stress and Development Lab at Harvard University, and today I'm going to talk about my work, Deprivation but Not Threat as a Mechanism, linking socioeconomic status with neural activation during working memory. Socioeconomic status has been associated with both executive function and related neural systems. Working memory is the ability to hold in mind and manipulate information, and previous studies have found that children from lower SES backgrounds tend to exhibit lower performance on tests of working memory. Furthermore, children from lower SES backgrounds also tend to exhibit lower activation in the frontal parietal network, shown here in red, especially when that working memory task is particularly difficult. But what are the environmental mechanisms that explain these associations? Experiencing low income increases the chances of experiencing many different types of adversity. And recently, the dimensional model of adversity in psychopathology has posited that there exist at least two dimensions of adversity. The experiences of threat, which are associated with threat, experiencing harm or threat of harm, and experiences of deprivation, which are associated with experiencing a lack of the expected environmental inputs, especially in cognitive and social domains. This model posits that these two different dimensions may impact different neural systems. For instance, it posits that experiencing threat may impact systems of the brain involved in emotional processing and threat detection, like the salience network and the amygdala, whereas experiencing deprivation may impact systems in the brain involved in cognitive function, especially in executive function and language processing. So in this study, we wanted to test part of this model. Particularly, we wanted to test whether deprivation, but not threat, will be a mechanism linking early low income with the neural systems that support working memory, in particular the frontal parietal network. This study consisted of a sample of 139 youths aged 11 to 12, and these kids were part of a longitudinal study in the Seattle area. To look at socioeconomic status, we were particularly interested in early chronicity of low income, assessed from ages 3 to 6 years old. And we assessed both deprivation, we assessed that using the home, which assessed things like access to learning materials, parental involvement in learning, language, and a variety of different experiences. And we also assessed threat, and we used several different measures to assess that, looking at physical abuse, sexual abuse, and community violence and domestic violence. Children participated in a spatial working memory task for shapes while they underwent fMRI scanning. And we were particularly interested in the frontal parietal network, so we did region of interest analysis in the middle frontal gyrus and the interparietal sulcus. First, we wanted to test whether chronicity of early low income was associated with activation in the frontal parietal network, and indeed we found that greater chronicity of early low income was associated with reduced activation in both the left and the right interparietal sulcus. We did not find this association with middle frontal gyrus. Consistent with previous studies, we found that early low income was associated with experiencing both more deprivation and more threat. But here we were interested in whether these differences in dimensions of experience differentially were associated with the neural systems that support working memory. Indeed, we found that deprivation was negatively associated with activation in both the left and the right interparietal sulcus. Critically, these activation differences in these regions were not associated with experiencing more threat. And furthermore, deprivation was still significantly associated with activation in the interparietal sulcus, even when we controlled for threat. And we didn't find any associations between either threat or deprivation and middle frontal gyrus activation. Finally, we wanted to test whether deprivation was a mechanism linking early low income with activation in the frontal parietal network. So we did a formal test of mediation. Here we found that chronicity of early low income, the association between chronicity of low income and activation in the IPS was indeed partially mediated by cognitive deprivation. So to conclude, we found that deprivation partially explained the association between early low SES, and reduced activation in the interparietal sulcus, a key part of the frontal parietal network that is particularly important for spatial working memory. We did not find that threat contributed to this association, and this provides support for the dimensional model of adversity, suggesting that these different dimensions of adversity may impact different neural systems. And future studies should explore the link to academic achievement because we know that both SES and working memory are predictive of academic outcomes. Thank you so much.